Morning, all. I believe, Justin and I have been talking. Justin Leitner is our regional manager for Scott Turbon. And Ricky Jones, who was in the meeting with us when we talked to Justin, he's on also. But Justin brought to us a very enlightening new Scott Turbon uh, company since Haywood and Gordon purchased them. Give you a little background. When Scott Turbon was just Scott Turbon, Bill Scott owned them. Just about every one of the Lightning Mixer reps joined with Scott Turbon to give a unison of high shear that we did not have with Lightning Mixers. Scott Turbon would go in the vessel tank with the Lightning Mixer. The Lightning Mixer would produce the flow regime to bring whatever needed to be reduced, either particles, particle reduction, or making an emulsion. But the Lightning Mixer would bring the liquid to the Scott Turbon for the high shear zone, which made it, very good to work together. I have put several in Maybelline, in mascara manufacturing, have put several in glue manufacturing. Steve Hardland has one big Scott Turbon down at Loveland that he and I have worked on with a Lightning Mixer. But with Justin, he is going to go over the breadth of Scott Turbon now, because they have added some items since we left them, because when Haywood Gordon purchased them, they took them direct. And it was with Justin and Ricky and I when we talked, when Justin came to Centro, he said that's just not working out. They want to go back to the representative line of it, in which we have Scott Turbon, as Mike Gallagher shared with each one of you. We have Scott Turbon through our entire footprint. So listen to Justin. He has some words of wisdom, because he certainly did when he talked to Ricky and I. And I think you will come away knowing where you can find some applications for Scott Turbon. All right, Justin, all yours, buddy.
All right, man. Thank you. I must have done a good job of faking it when we met the other few months ago, but
extremely good.
So I appreciate you all having me today. It was kind of short notice for me, but I really wanted to get in as soon as possible. So I threw some slides together, a little presentation. My main goal or objective today was just to introduce myself and to introduce the Scott Turbon, product line. So that being said, Gary and I talked. When Haywood Gordon purchased Scott Turbon, I think it's been 3 or 4 years ago now, they tried to align all 3 business units, which was Haywood Gordon, Sharp, and Scott Turbon, under some direct sales, but also under the same kind of rep network. And for Scott Turbon, out of the 3 business lines, it just doesn't make any sense to share rep networks, because they're so heavy in municipal and also the industrial, but mostly municipal and mining. So when I came aboard, I started in October, so I haven't been with Scott Turbon very long. They are in the transition of going back and signing up good rep partners to take the product line to market. Scott Turbon's really heavy in the food and beverage side of things, so that's where the name recognition mostly is. That's where most of our installs are. We do well with industrial applications as well, but dressings, sauces, cosmetics, as Gary mentioned, are some of the real heavy industries that Bill Scott and Scott Turbon have traditionally been in. My background is when I got into the industrial sales space, I spent some time with a distributor, repping different pump lines, mechanical seals, packing, several different product lines with distribution. And I spent about 3 or 4 years doing that. So I really have an idea of, what your all's daily lives look like and responsibilities, which I think helps me out in the partnership. But then I went to Eagle Bergman, spent about 4 years at Eagle Bergman in the mechanical steel space, and then went to spent time at Ikato mixing. So I've got a bit of a diverse background with rotating equipment and mixing, and now I'm on the high shear side. So it's been a transition for me, not only industry, because I've spent most of my time in the chemical space, but also going from the low shear to the high shear mixing. So you have to bear with me a little bit when questions and technical things come around. I have to rely on others, but learning as I go here. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I cover 15 southern, south, and southern states. So from Virginia south all the way over to Texas. I've got some of Oklahoma and Nebraska and Missouri as well. So it's a fairly large territory. That's why it's really been a blessing to sign up with you guys and really have some good coverage in the states that you guys cover. So I look forward to that. Any questions for me before I get started? All right. So briefly, Scott Turbon, the
Hey,
real
Justin, I do have one.
Yeah.
Who do you report to?
I report to Jim Pompos, who's the director of sales for Hayward Gordon.
Okay. I remember that name.
Yep. So one of probably the key to Scott Turbon is the mixer head, and how the mixer head works. And Gary mentioned about incorporating it with a lightning mixer to produce that flow, and that is a very common application for us. But one of the benefits, or one of the keys to the Scott Turbon mixer head, is it also produces flow itself, not near like a low shear, pitch blade impeller or hydrofoil or something like that, but it's kind of unique in the fact that it does create a flow pattern. And you can see, our high performance head simultaneously draw liquid and settled solids from the bottom of the tank while drawing liquids, floating solids. So inside of this cone and this cone are identical, and inside there's veins. And so in essence, it acts kind of like a pump. And so what happens is when you get this thing spinning, rotating, it draws in liquid from the top here and from the bottom here, right here to this high shear zone area. The two high velocities counter current streams converge. The product is forced to the periphery of the head, where it's subjected to further mechanical shear through one of these three shear devices. The product is discharged radially when it combines the slower. Some still yet to see it with both the top and the bottom. I've seen it with just the bottom, I believe it was, design, but a lot of our competitors will use like a rotor stator design, which has a steady bearing in it. So that's also, you'll see that's also very effective for cleanability and, low maintenance as well. A quick mixing overview. So, yes, there is a mixer that can provide both flow and shear, which is, what I was describing with the veins, impeller veins. So, these are kind of shear controlled processing, gas dispersion, homogenizing, emulsification, powder incorporation, and dispersion. I mean, this is where you really see a lot of our products incorporated: viscous blended, solid suspending, and liquid blending. We can also handle that just because of the uniqueness of our impeller. A lot of times you'll see, when you're getting over here, especially with solid suspension, you'll see more incorporation with a low shear mixer like a lightning mixer. So we have three head designs. The A head, B head, C head. The A model head is designed for rapid powder dispersion, dissolution, emulsions. It features a cage-like shear element, which helps disperse agglomerated particles and standardizes in the consistency of the batch. The B head is probably the most used within the Scott Turbon line. Is designed for applications such as mixing salad dressings, thick emulsions, or other viscous products. It features a large diameter tooth disc, which enhances the flow characteristics of the batch. So I would say, that I've seen 75% of the applications that I've come across have had the B head. And then probably another 20% are the A head. And there's just a small category out there that you'll see with the C head where they're looking for the flow, but not as much shear. So the B is going to give you the highest amount of shear, and the C will give you the least amount of shear.
Now, does the A and B, is that radial flow, mostly radial flow?
Yeah. So
like a donut?
Yeah, you're going to get your flow, it's kind of a little bit of both, but yes, once it passes through the cones and hits that shear plate, it will be strictly radial flow. Yes. Okay. And one thing that we will do, is especially in, hummus is a big thing for us right now. We're doing a lot in the hummus space, and we'll sharpen these teeth to really help even get you a finer product, a little bit, less chunky, more broken up product. And they can come in welded designs. You'll like our LA1 lab unit. It comes with all three, and basically what you get in that is you get the cone, and then you get this cage insert, this sawtooth insert, and this flat blade insert, and the cone is interchangeable with all three of them. So you just can basically, there's a nut and a bolt at the bottom of here, undo it, undo that, and pull the whole piece off, replace the center section, put it back on, and you're ready to go. Now, when you get into the larger units, it's specified which one, the customer wants, prefers. But we do a lot of trial units, and we can get into that later. That's the one thing I regret I left out of the presentation here, is more on our lab units and our lab itself and Adelanto. But we can talk about that at the end. We can walk through it. This is kind of the bread and butter of Scott Mixer. This is our top mount, our TM mixer. It comes in several different sizes. You'll see TM1 or TM2, 3, all the way up to 7. They can get rather large. Pretty simple terminology and components. You got a motor, you got a bearing frame, a mounting flange, a shaft, and the head. They're direct drive units, and there's no bottom bearing in the head itself. It's freestanding. So some of the benefits of the Scott Turbon mixer is reduced batch times. Especially, a lot of you guys probably attended our viscosifiers or viscosity modifiers little short course, but you can take incorporating a gum, from hours or half days to minutes by incorporating it with a high shear mixer. Proper dispersions, so reduction of waste ingredients and maximum product yield, bench to pilot to production scale up. We've got a lot of know-how with our scale up, increase capacity without adding an entire production line, batch to batch consistency, specifying the correct mixer for the application is obviously key, and low maintenance and easy to clean mixer heads. That's the other, not having that bearing and that rotor stator really makes it pretty much maintenance free, and the cleanability is much easier. Talking a little bit about our scale up knowledge and how we can do that. We've got this LA1. This is what we call our LA1, which we have two smaller versions. This will handle up to 5-gallon bucket, maybe 3 to 4 gallon mix batches. This does actuate, so it raises up and down with this actuator in here. We trial these quite often. We, our goal and what we usually do is we usually have about 2 to 3 of these on the shelf at a time. So typically they're ready for immediate shipment. And I would say 75% of them don't come back. So we try to usually ship them new because most customers end up purchasing them. And then we can move to a little bit larger scale trial units. Some, depending on application, some people use these as production units. But on the pilot scale, this can be also something that's on a trial agreement and done at the customer site. But we can also perform these tests in our R&D facility in Adelanto, and the units available there. Customers can come out and use the lab, or we can, do the trial, have them send the ingredients and do the trial for them. So much of what I've seen thus far is subjective in product. So it's not, one size fits all. So we really encourage testing to prove out the right mixer selection and prove out that they're going to get the consistency or the end product that they would prefer, the customer. So, and then we go all the way up to production scale. This is an example of just a simple mix module, which would be your tank and your high shear mixer combined. We also have the bottom mount mixer. So our we have them both in direct drive and belt drive, sorry. This kind of gives you just a layout of what the belt driven looks like. Here's the unit itself. So another product that Scott Turbon has that we've done really well with, and this is really has lend itself to the food industry, again, the dressings and sauces, but ketchup, mayonnaise. We do quite a bit with mayonnaise production, and mustards, basically any of your condiments. Barbecue sauce is our hydraulic ram units for production scale. So this here, we've got this ram unit right here that can raise and lower the entire head. We do both floor mounted systems and then portables, which would be like this tank here. Some of our floor mounts, we've got 2 and 3 tank systems where this would be built up on a deck, and you would have, let's say, 1 tank here and 1 tank here, and the actual bridge could rotate from 1 tank, lift up and rotate to the other tank. So while you're emptying this tank and preparing ingredients for your next batch, you're over here mixing your batch, and then vice versa, swing it over and this one's ready to go. And you can do the same here, empty this one and get it ready for your next one. So it's almost like a continuous batch process. Seen this with, one of the big mayonnaise producers. And this arm will be, during the process of making their mayonnaise, they'll raise this arm up and down to draw in ingredients and get just the right blend um, for their mayonnaise.
Justin,
Yes.
Doug Cheney and I ran into a Scott Turbon, and it was in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's probably one of the first times you've ever heard it. They were making the green slime uh, for tires in case you had a flat.
All right.
And he was using 75 horsepower to mix that. He didn't need that much, but it was working. So they
You'll,
used it, but that it went into the industrial side as well.
yep, yep. You'll see, you'll see some big motors out there, up to 250 horsepower motors. That's one thing that's really, I try to be as upfront with all of you as I can so that you have the right information. But, that's one thing we're trying to really wrap our head around is using appropriate power. Bill Scott just threw power to it. If it was in question, he was just a big motor. And it, of course he had great success with it, but sometimes there wasn't any real design or science behind it. It was, we'll make sure this thing works. So we're trying to kind of find that happy medium there of appropriately sizing some of these mixers. Adjustable heights, 75 to 12,000 gallon, horsepower ranges from 3 to 250 horsepower. So these can be set up for many applications. I appreciate the example of the industrial one because that's something that, especially having myself coming out of the chemical space, I know there's a lot of really great applications out there. I think for us, the real challenge, especially with something like this, is being competitive. We currently make, everything that we do is stainless steel. We don't have anything else in our shop. We are a stainless steel facility. And so that sometimes prices us out of the market if a customer isn't looking for sexy. So, Bill really was proud of the way our equipment looked. And sometimes there's, significant costs associated with that. So it's something else we're trying to, really wrap our head around is the costs. But, it does the job. It can fulfill many, many applications. It's just we have to be somewhat cognizant of where we can be competitive. And that's something that Gary, you'll, can appreciate it. And we had this conversation. And just for the rest of you, Bill Scott, the business for him was a really great business for him and his wife. And he had a real hard time of saying no. So he would build if he needed to build a bolt, he'd build the bolt. He's done a lot of stuff over his time, but the question is whether he actually made money doing it. And, now that Hayward Gordon owns them, they're not, they want to make sure that there's profits built in to the equipment and trying to look at a little more standardization. That's one thing you all will find when you get the install base list is there's a lot of equipment and a lot of minor differences. So that's been a real challenge in the part side of things and finding drawings is there's a lot of different iterations of equipment out there, which was cool for the customer. And again, he made a great living at it, but trying to be efficient and such like what we're trying to do now, we're looking at more standardized equipment, standardized parts and things like that. Another product that you all have to offer is our VacuBlend powder induction system. The VacuBlend system offers benefits of, both the inline mixer coupled with, a vacuum pump as well to incorporate powders. The HSM or HSP, I'll get into that when we get to the inline mixer. But those are our two different models of inlines that are available. Gradients are pulled through either a wand or integrated through a hopper, and then processed into, processed into the system. This is a photo of the VacuBlend. It's got a nice bench or table here that the production team can put their bag of powder on, cut it out, and introduce it to the hopper, which then feeds the inline mixer in the vacuum. So you're not getting any products or anything coming up in here that could wet out, clog this area right here. It's all pulling through very nice and clean. This is a really good application if you see people up on top of a tank, maybe a small platform. They are having to manually lift all the bags of product up to the top of the tank to dump it in. This is slick because you can basically install it right down at the ground level and hook your hoses up to it, and then you can do it one pass into the vessel, or you can make it as a recirculating piece of equipment. Some other stuff, and you'll see this is where you're talking about the cosmetic world, but we'll do vacuum process vessels and mixers to incorporate scrape agitator and a high shear agitator in the same time, as well as all the controls to go with it. So we can get pretty elaborate with some of the designs and some of the things that we can do. It's not.
Yes, Justin, you have this in lipstick, mascara, just about any type of
Yes.
Maybelline and all the big users.
Yep, and yes, Mary Kay is a big customer that has got some of our units. We also do a lot with creams and lotions and ointments, especially pharmaceutical grade type ointments. Our inline shear pump. So the HSP or HSM available in both configurations. Shear pump for pumping with rotor stator, and so the HSP is basically the only difference between the two. And I wish I would have added another picture here of the mill head or the heads themselves. But the only difference is basically your rotor and your stator. We've got one that basically provides more pumping. This is not meant to be a primary pump. This is meant to emulsify or introduce powders or shear. It's meant for shear. But we have one version that does a better job at pumping than the other, and the other does a better job of milling than pumping. So they both do create flow. We just need to look at how high they want to, how far and how high they're trying to push the product. But we offer the two different types depending on what the customer's trying to do. It's just a swap out. The HSM is a little bit more expensive cost wise, just because the milling time. That's why I wish I would have tried to find a picture for the two different headsets. You'll see one that definitely has just more vein. It's got veins in it and less teeth, for lack of a better term. Where the mill set is, there's a lot more busy, a lot more teeth involved in it. So the time to machine it is significantly more. But this is what you'll find inside, also incorporated in the vacuum blend. We do offer a line of portables, sanitary portables, through our partners with Sharp, but we white label them with Scott Turbon. So they will come out as a Scott Turbon mixer. But we've got lots of decades of experience with the portable line behind, helping us out and behind us with lots of different options, mounting configurations. So as you all know, there's portables everywhere, and I don't know in my past experience, both with where when I came from Mikado, we were not, Mikado was not good with portables at all. They didn't even do them. I'm not sure how Lightning does, if they're, if that's a big play for them or something that is a big push, but you've got them available here as well. And we know the sanitary market with them. So lots of options from air motors, couplings, shrouds, mounts. We even have available, lifting systems that we can also incorporate with them. Our customer base, as you can see, is very heavy here with food and beverage. That's kind of been the background, but if you ask Bill Scott, he says 40% applications in the industrial space. So we've done stuff with asphalt, incorporating the like sticky stuff into asphalt to help it stick to the road and protect it. So we're definitely interested in growing our industrial market more, and also widening our footprint into the food and beverage. So I know that you guys, I'll be really interested. It'll be fun to start looking at what customers are in your territories, that you can already see what possibilities there might be for some high shear mixing. And that's the end of my presentation. I know that it had a little bit more time, but I appreciate the opportunity. So I guess I'll open it up if there's any questions for me.
Justin, on your, let's see if I'm, on your portable mixers, can Scott Turbon, I guess, not put that epoxy coating on it that it seemed to be, and just sell it as a industrial mixer rather than the sanitary mixer?
Yes. Yep.
On any of the line?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, on the portable.
Yeah, I meant on the
Yes.
the portable. Excuse me.
Yep.
That's super.
Yeah, there's I went out there and did a little bit of training and looked at the plant, and I mean the amount of options and different configurations that we're able to do is pretty endless. So if you've got something and you're just questioning whether it's possible, bring it to me, because I was shocked at all the different configurations that we'd be able to put together.
Okay, well, right when we get through with this, you and I need to talk, because I got two right now I need to discuss with you.
Okay, great.
Hey, Justin, this is Greg in Little Rock.
Yep.
We get calls from our various rep firms that we represent from a client that wants to issue their purchase order to Centro instead of to you. Whereas always we want to give it to you, sometimes we get in those customers' situations. What is Scott Turbon's policy?
We want to get the orders. So, of course, we would like to handle the paperwork and do the billing. But if you're in that situation, and that's what it takes to get the deal, we'll, on our standard products like our TM and our inline mixers, I think it's a 15% commission. So we'll just sell it to you at reduced price. So that won't be that's a hurdle that we can jump over.
Very good, thanks. And last question that I've got, you have the mastering of mixing fundamentals, your basic catalogs, etc., that are available on PDF and all. Do you also have hard copies you send us as reps for the guys in the field?
Yes, yeah, I will try. I'll get each branch I'll try to send 50 or something like that to each branch of just basically our general flyer that shows everything. If there's anything more specific, let me know. We've just hired in the last 3 months a new marketing lady, and we're going through a big revamp of our literature and such. So I'd like to just the general literature has been done, so we're going to start with that. And as we get more specific, you can let me know. I also have a catalog. Basically, this has been around for a while, but it's a really good resource for each branch to have. So I've got to, get these put together, but it goes through the entire, line of what Scott Turbon has and has done. I'm careful with this because as I was talking about how, Bill Scott would do anything and everything, and, HG's trying to, kind of find the right niche. That's where this can be a little bit confusing, because you'll go through here and you'll see some of the stuff we've done. And, I would check with me first, just before we get too excited, get a customer too excited about some of it, just to make sure that it's still in our wheelhouse, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, but I'll get these out to the branches as well. And you had mentioned, the customer. So this is a good opportunity for me to kind of tell you how the process works. If you get an RFQ opportunity and want to turn it over for quote, I'm going to need, the company information, name, address, things like that, which obviously I can Google the address, but I'll need a contact at the company to make the quote to, along with their email and phone number. So to get my opportunity in our CRM open, I need to enter that information. So customer and the end user name of the company, and then a contact at that company. That'll save us all some time if you can submit that right with the RFQ request.
Justin, this is Guy Adams. I work down in Alabama. Just a question of relative. I know you haven't been with the Scott Turbon long, but relative to the paint industry, specifically latex, and also dairies, ice cream, milk industry. Do you know of any history?
I can't name you the specific customers offhand, but yes, we have several installs within the dairy industry and within the paint industry as well. So the paint gets a little tricky just based on what they're looking for, just due to cost of the equipment, whether they are going to spend the money on it or not. But dairy is definitely within our, something we should be looking at.
Justin, do you ever do anything with automobile paint or automobile parts paint?
I can't say that we have specifically. I'd have to look back at some of our references in history. So I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'd have to look at it specific. If you have a specific application, let me know, and I'll go back and see if I still have direct access to Bill Scott, so he's still on the payroll. So he remembers everything. He remembers where every machine's at. And so I can definitely reach out to him and find out what he knows.
Hey, Justin, this is Lee Free. On the powder induction units, you've got the tabletop hopper, and you said that you can use a vacuum probe and a super sack. What about a bulk bag discharging system? Can we locate this unit close to the bottom of a bulk bag unloader and use that, or a permanent bin?
Yeah, we can do that. We want to look at specifically what powder is being incorporated, and make sure that we feel comfortable that it's not going to back up or get stuck on the side, or
Sure.
What have you. But I think depending on, I'm trying to think of what application I was recently looking at, but they were introducing like, I believe like tea powder, tea leaves or something. And, we were at, I think about 200 pounds an hour. No, 200 pounds a minute. I'm sorry. Incorporation. So we want to look at this specific process to, get a general idea of what we think it could handle at a time. But the answer would be yes, generally yes.
Okay, and what about Aeroseal and Guar Gum? Are those two applications that y'all are very familiar with?
We're familiar with the gum applications. So those two specifically, I would say yes. But I would want to, get more certain feedback.
Okay.
Give you an idea. What flow rates they're looking at, what incorporation, time that they're wanting to do, and then I could give you some solid feedback.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions? Comments? Yahoos?
Hey, Justin, this is Cindy. Quick question. Do you know how you guys compare to the Alpha Laval M15 powder mixer? Are you guys competitive and you have the complete almost plug-and-play system?
I've not run across, you said the M.
It's an M. It's got the
M15.
controller.
Okay. I've not run across that, so I can't answer the question, but I'll taking a note here to see what history we have there.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything specific on that? Is it something that you've seen or that you've got an opportunity for?
I've seen it and just curious about how I'm thinking of a company. I'm thinking of Azo possibly. I know they make some of their own equipment, but I'm thinking they might be able to use that there.
Okay, thanks.
Justin, there's a lot of products on your website. Is there a distinction in what Centro represents?
No, as long as it's on the Scott, the Scott Turbon line. So I know that as the website sits, it really commingles with the Hayward Gordon website. So, you want to stay on that, what they call sanitary, but it's stay focused on the Scott Turbon stuff. Like I said, on the portables, we get those, we purchase those from Sharp. They're a partner in that, and we label them Scott Turbon. So you could kind of get an idea there on the Sharp portable side. And that's something also right now, as we're speaking, our website's being completely revamped to distinguish Scott Turbon more standalone outside of the Hayward Gordon group. A big part of that is a push from us sales guys because, to me, it makes a lot of sense to partner with, got people like you that are doing low shear mixing as well, the lightning side of things. And so, our thought was, look, we don't want customers, our reps won't utilize our site and our information like we would want them to, just because they're going to be going to a competitor site. So that is being processed to kind of put us out more standalone. And we've got Rogers equipment down in the Dallas area that we're working with, and we also work with RE Mason in the Carolinas, who are also Lightning reps as well.
Good. All right, Justin. Anybody else got one final question for you? We appreciate your time. I'll be calling you here shortly. And as Justin has put up his number and email address, you may want to take a screenshot of that to keep him close. If you cannot get, if you can't get a hold of me for whatever reason, you can call him direct.
Yeah, and I appreciate the time, and I just, I love traveling with you all. So if there's any opportunities for me to get out, especially right now, to get out of this house and hit the road, I'm ready to go. And again, I was work distribution for quite some time, so I'm not. You're not. If I request to travel with you, or if you request me to travel, it doesn't have to be all Scott Turbon all the time. You guys got plenty of other stuff on your plate, and if I can get a chance to talk about Scott Turbon, and then I'll step back in the background and let you all discuss whatever other things you have going on. I have no problem with that. I learn a lot about different equipment and stuff doing it. So no pressures from me. I just I enjoy getting out on the road and getting to know you all and helping out how I can. So don't hesitate to to give me a call and see if I can head your way.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate your time.
You got it, y'all. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you.